Hey, I'm Courtney Waterman, your tutor. Lover of anime, manga, and math. And you just tuned into another session of Tutor Me Sempai. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're jumping into an 8th grade topic, powers of decimals. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'll be putting time codes in for this video in the description box below. So use that to skip ahead to whatever part of the video you think is most interesting. As always, if you have any questions about what you see today, or even on homework, you can always put it in the comment box below, or visit me on my Facebook page at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. At the end of this video, I'll be linking my 8th grade playlist in which I cover a ton more topics. So if you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. This video will have 3 parts, so leave a like, smash subscribe, and let's get started. At this point in time, we've talked a bit about exponents already. And if you need a refresher on that, you can find a bunch of different videos right up here. Check those out at your leisure. But today we're going to be focusing on what to do when you have a decimal number raised to a power. And we're going to handle that with 2 very easy steps. Only 2. And the first of those steps is what I call find your raw number. And the second step is what I call add in your decimal places. So your first step, find your raw number. Your second step is add in your decimal places. With these 2 steps, you'll be able to raise any of your decimal numbers to whatever power. And we're going to use these 2 steps to tackle our 2 examples for today. So let's jump into our first one. In our first example for today, we're going to tackle something that doesn't have a whole number. So we're going to raise this 0.0042 or 42 10,000ths to the second power. And we're going to do that using our 2 steps. Remember, first we're going to find our raw number, and then we're going to add in our decimal places. Now we know that raising something to an exponent or to a power is simply going to multiply this thing by itself that many times. So technically this is just going to be this. But my steps are going to pretty much ignore this, and we're going to get the same answer if you were to just multiply that directly. So the first step is going to be find our raw number. Now, in order to find our raw number, we have to take our base here, not the exponent, just our base, and we're going to ignore the decimal point. How would this number read if it had no decimal point in it? So we're going to take this and we're going to write, there's a 0 here, there's a 0, 0, 4, 2. Now this number, how would this read with no decimal point as you see here? Well, you wouldn't have all these extra zeros because it doesn't make sense to have leading zeros without a decimal point. So you're just going to be left with this. So we will take this number without our decimal, right? Without our decimal, and then we're going to raise that to the same power. So we're going to have 42 squared. Now that we have our 42 raised to the second power, we can do some simple math to figure out what this equals. Now 42 times 42 is just going to be 1764. You can check my math to make sure, but that's what we're going to get. This is what we consider our raw number. This here is our raw number. So let's move on to our second step. Remember, that was to add in our decimal places. Well, how many decimal places are we supposed to add? Well, let's first find it. Well, we're going to take our original base. Now we're going back to the original base, not this raw thing that we found here, our original base, and we're going to count how many decimal place values did this number have. So our original base has 4 decimal place values. So we're going to take that 4 and multiply it by the exponent. So this 4 is going to be multiplied by the exponent. So our decimal place values, or decimal places, are going to be 4 times 2. So how many decimal places should our final answer have? 8. But we can't stop there. Remember, our second step was to add in our decimal places. We have our raw number, and we know how many decimal places it should have. So now we got to put both of those 2 things together to add in our decimal places. So we're going to start with our raw number, and we're going to write it like this. I like to write it all the way to the edge, right? And we'll start there, 1764. We're going to write it on this side. And the reason being, we're going to start from our rightmost number, and we're going to move over to the left this many times. until we figure out how many decimal places this is going to have for our final answer. So we're starting here, and we got to move it over 8 times. So our decimal point is going to be right here. And every place that we have a bump that we don't have a number, we're going to fill in with some zeros. So you find your round number and you add in your decimal places that you're supposed to have, resulting in your final answer. And we can rewrite this without all the extra bumps to be 0.0000, there's 4 zeros, 1764. This is going to be our final answer. 0.0042 squared is going to be 0.00001764. So let's look at an example that does have a whole number and see how does that change up anything. So with our last example for today, we're going to raise 2.20 to the 3rd power. And we're going to do it the same way. However, we see we now have a whole number present. But we're going to see that doesn't actually change anything. We're going to do the same 2 steps. First, we're going to find our raw number, and then we're going to add in our decimal places. So the first thing we do when we're finding our raw number is ignore our decimal point. So we're going to have 220 raised to the 3rd power. Now, if you were to do this, it doesn't take too much work, but I'm going to save you a little bit of time and tell you what this actually equals. You're going to get 10,648,000. So we found our raw number. This is our raw number. So our second step is to add in our decimal places, which will require us to look back at our original number, our base, and figure out how many decimal places it had originally. So our decimal places are going to be how many we had here originally, which is just 2, times our exponent, which is 3. So this is going to tell us how many decimal places our last result, our final answer, is going to have, which is just telling us we're going to have 6. So we're going to put this together with our raw number to figure out what our actual answer is going to be. And we're going to start by writing it the same way we did before, starting at our rightmost. So we're going to have 0, 0, 0, 8, 4, 6, 0, 1. And we're going to start here, and we're going to move over this many times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to put our decimal point right there. Now at this point in time, if you are to keep all of your decimal places, then you will write this whole thing out. But if they don't necessarily care, then you can kind of shave off some of the trailing zeros. It doesn't change your answer. But if you want to keep it in its entirety, because we did have 2 decimal places here, you would then write this as 10.648000. And that would be very consistent with what you see here. However, like I said, if they don't really care about the trailing zeros, you can ignore those and just simply write 10.648. And that's going to be how you're going to find your decimal numbers raised to an exponent using just 2 steps. Find your raw number and then add in your decimal places. So I hope you're able to follow along to these examples, and I hope you now know how you can raise your decimal numbers to your exponents. However, if you have any questions about what you saw today, or even your own homework, remember you can put it in the comment box below, or visit me on my Facebook page at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. If you hadn't done so already, remember to leave a like. It really helps the channel by letting YouTube know that you found the video helpful. And if you found the video helpful, so can someone else. So leave a like, hit the notification bell, smash the subscribe button, and share this video with a friend. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I really hope this helped with your homework. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney. This is your playlist. This has been another session of Tutor Me Sempai.